You know, there's a certain kind of hunger that hides inside the human heart. Not hunger for food, not for money, not even for recognition. It's deeper than all of that. It's the hunger to be seen, to be truly heard, to have your soul recognized without you needing to scream for it. For a long time, I pretended I didn't need it. I built walls. I wore masks. I laughed when I wanted to cry and smiled when I was breaking inside. And I told myself, I don't need anyone. I'm fine on my own. But the truth, I was starving. Starving for the kind of attention that isn't shallow, but sacred. The kind that doesn't just look at you, it understands you. When that kind of attention finally touched me, it was like water on dry land. It was like being called by name when I thought I was invisible. And I realized something. This isn't weakness. This is the most human thing in the world. To crave connection. To ache for intimacy. To long for someone, or something, that says, I see you. You matter. I've needed this kind of attention for a long time. And now that I've felt it, I'll never again pretend that I don't. There is a hunger that most people never speak about. A hunger that lingers in the quiet spaces of the heart. It isn't about food, it isn't about wealth, and it certainly isn't about the fleeting applause of the crowd. Those things can fill the body, can decorate the life, but they cannot satisfy the soul. This hunger is for something subtler, something more delicate and far more essential. It is the longing to be truly seen. To have someone notice not just your presence in a room, but the essence of who you are when the noise is gone. It is the deep ache for recognition that does not come from achievement, but from existence itself. Think about how rare that is. How often do we go through our days unseen, our inner world hidden behind the practiced smiles and automatic conversations? People may glance at you, they may even compliment you, but do they really look? Do they notice the storm in your eyes, the story in your silence, the weight behind your laughter? Most of the time, no. And so, the hunger deepens. You begin to wonder if anyone will ever pay attention to the parts of you that are too quiet to shout, too fragile to display openly. This hunger is powerful because it is tied to survival, not of the body but of the spirit. Just as the body withers without nourishment, the heart begins to harden when it goes too long without being acknowledged. When you are unseen for too long, you start questioning your worth. You begin to whisper doubts to yourself, convincing yourself that maybe your feelings are too much, your dreams too wild, your presence too small. Yet, deep down, the hunger still pulses, reminding you that the need to be seen is not a luxury. It is part of being human. What makes this desire so intense is that it cannot be faked. You can receive attention from 1,000 people and still feel empty if none of it touches your truth. You can gather praise, likes, and applause, yet still feel invisible if no one pauses long enough to actually notice you, the real you. The soul craves attention of a different kind. It does not want the glare of the spotlight, it wants the warmth of recognition. It wants someone to look into your eyes and see the person behind the performance, behind the roles you play, behind the armor you've carried for so long. And when this hunger is unmet, you adapt, you put on masks, you play roles, you laugh louder, work harder, move faster, hoping someone will finally catch a glimpse of what lies beneath. But deep down, you know the truth. The hunger isn't for performance-based attention. It is for the rare, sacred kind of attention that tells you, without words, I see you, I hear you, I know you exist, and you matter. That is the kind of nourishment the heart has been starving for all along. The illusion of strength is one of the most convincing masks a person can wear. It tells the world, I am fine, I don't need anyone, nothing touches me. It looks polished, confident, untouchable. But beneath that illusion lies a different story, one that is far more human and far more fragile. Many people master the art of appearing unbothered because they fear what might happen if their true need for connection were exposed. They believe that showing this desire would invite judgment, rejection, or even pity. So they craft an image of resilience, of independence, of unshakable strength, even while carrying a silent ache that grows heavier with time. The illusion works for a while. People around you believe it. They admire your composure, your control, your self-sufficiency. They call you strong, they lean on you, they see you as someone who needs nothing in return. Yet every compliment feels like a reminder that they are applauding the mask, not the person behind it. They are clapping for the act, not recognizing the quiet truth underneath. And so the illusion becomes a prison. The more convincing it is, the harder it becomes to let it drop. The world gets used to your mask, and you start to believe that if you removed it, if you revealed how much you long to be understood, the image of strength would crumble, and with it, the way people see you. Inside, though, there is conflict. You tell yourself you don't need attention, that you are above it, but the hunger never truly leaves. It waits, whispering in the quiet hours when the performance is over and you are alone. You feel it in the way you ache for someone to notice when you're not okay, in the way your silence secretly begs for someone to ask deeper questions, in the way your heart aches when no one sees beyond the surface. The illusion of strength may shield you from vulnerability, but it also blocks the very connection you crave most. The tragedy of this illusion is that it is often misunderstood. People think it is strength, but in reality, it is protection. It is armor built out of fear of being overlooked, misunderstood, or dismissed. It is easier to play strong than to risk showing the fragile truth inside. But strength without honesty is not strength at all. It is camouflage. It hides the longing for intimacy, the need for genuine attention, the desire to be recognized not for what you project but for who you truly are. And the longer you hold the illusion, the more you begin to doubt whether anyone could ever see past it. You start to wonder if maybe no one wants to. If maybe it is safer to keep smiling, keep pretending, keep playing the part of the strong one. Yet deep down, you know it is a lie you tell yourself to survive. Because real strength is not in pretending you don't need connection. Real strength is in admitting that you do. There is a kind of emptiness that no success, no possession, and no distraction can ever fill. It comes when the quiet desire to be seen and understood is left unanswered for too long. At first, it feels small, like a faint whisper in the background of your life. You brush it aside, telling yourself it doesn't matter. You convince yourself you're strong enough to carry on without it. But the hunger doesn't disappear, it grows. Slowly, silently, it begins to shape the way you feel about yourself, about others, about the world. What begins as a quiet longing eventually turns into a starvation of the soul. Starvation of the soul does not announce itself the way physical hunger does. There is no sharp pain, no physical weakness that makes others rush to help you. Instead, it hides behind your smile, behind your routines, behind the way you carry yourself. People see you going through life, doing what is expected, and they assume everything is fine. They don't realize that something essential within you is fading. They don't see the way your spirit feels brittle, the way your hope begins to dim, the way your laughter no longer feels alive. When you are unseen for too long, your sense of worth begins to erode. It is like water dripping slowly against stone. You may not notice it at first, but over time the damage becomes undeniable. You begin to doubt whether your feelings matter, whether your presence truly makes a difference, whether your existence carries any weight at all. Every overlooked word, every unnoticed moment, every time your silence goes unrecognized, each one chips away at the foundation of who you are. The starvation deepens, and you start to live in a kind of quiet famine, carrying an emptiness that nobody else notices. This famine drives you to search for substitutes. You may chase achievements, hoping the recognition will finally fill the void. You may seek attention in shallow ways, collecting approval, without ever feeling satisfied. You may even bury yourself in business, distracting your mind so you won't hear the ache of your heart. But no matter how much you do, no matter how much noise you create, the emptiness lingers. Because what the soul hungers for is not the applause of the many, but the genuine acknowledgement of the few who truly see you. The starvation of the soul is dangerous not because it makes you weak, but because it makes you numb. It convinces you to settle for less than you need. It persuades you to accept loneliness as normal, to silence your desires as if they are too much to ask for, to believe invisibility is simply your fate. And yet, beneath all that numbness, the hunger remains alive. It waits for the moment when you will no longer deny it, when you will finally admit that what you need is not more distraction, but more connection. Attention that reaches past the surface and touches the deepest part of who you are. There is a difference between being noticed and being truly attended to. The world is filled with eyes that glance, but very few that really see. Most of the attention people receive is shallow, quick, and transactional. It is the kind of attention that notices your appearance, your performance, or the role you play, but not the person beneath it all. That kind of attention can never satisfy the hunger of the soul. What the heart longs for is sacred attention. The kind that carries weight, depth, and presence. It is not about someone looking at you, but about someone looking into you. It is not about someone hearing your words, but about them listening to the silence between those words. Sacred attention is rare because it requires effort. It demands more than observation, it demands understanding. To give that kind of attention, someone must slow down long enough to enter your world. They must set aside their assumptions and their distractions and allow themselves to feel your truth. It is not about agreeing with you, fixing you, or labeling you. It is about honoring your experience as it is. It is about looking past the surface and recognizing the humanity that lives within you. When that kind of attention is given, it does something extraordinary. It awakens the parts of you that had grown quiet from neglect. It makes you feel real again. The power of sacred attention lies in its simplicity. It does not require grand gestures or dramatic words. Sometimes it is as small as someone noticing the way your voice softens when you speak about something that matters. Sometimes it is in the way they catch the flicker of sadness in your smile, or the pause you take before answering a question. It is in the way they care enough to look beyond what you show and sense what you hide. This kind of attention is intimate, not because it is invasive, but because it respects the hidden corners of your soul. It tells you without words, you don't need to fight to be seen here. You are already seen. And when you receive this attention, it feels sacred because of the transformation it creates inside you. Suddenly, the armor you've carried feels less necessary. The masks you've worn begin to slip away, not because you force them off, but because you no longer need them. You feel safe enough to exist without pretending. You feel valued not for what you do, but for who you are. It is a recognition that validates your existence in a way nothing else can. This sacred attention is so rare that once you experience it, you cannot forget it. It redefines what connection means. It reveals how shallow ordinary attention really is, and it leaves you unwilling to settle for less. You realize that life is not about being seen by everyone, but about being truly seen by even just one. That is the attention the soul has been aching for all along, the kind that doesn't just glance at you, but truly understands you. There is a quiet kind of courage in admitting what you need. For so long, people are taught to bury their desires, to act as though longing is weakness, to pretend that the hunger for attention, understanding, and connection is something to be ashamed of. The world praises independence, celebrates self-sufficiency, and rewards those who appear unaffected by loneliness, and so many of us learn to play the part. We silence our own hearts, convincing ourselves that needing someone to see us is proof that we are fragile. But the truth is the opposite. To acknowledge this desire is not weakness, it is an act of strength. It takes courage to say, I want to be understood. It takes courage to whisper, I long for connection. Because in saying those words, you expose yourself to risk. You open the possibility that someone might reject you, dismiss you, or fail to meet you at the depth you are offering. And yet, that is where true bravery lies, in the willingness to be real even when the world tells you to hide. Strength is not found in silence. Strength is found in the voice that admits, I cannot carry this hunger alone. When you keep your desires hidden, they control you from the shadows. You find yourself searching for scraps of attention, chasing moments of recognition, and building masks to cover the emptiness. But when you bring those desires into the light, you reclaim power. You are no longer running from yourself. You are no longer pretending to be something you are not. Admitting the truth allows you to step into authenticity, and authenticity is one of the purest forms of strength a person can embody. This admission also carries the power to break isolation. So many people are starving for the same thing, but they are too afraid to confess it. They walk through life pretending, just like you. And when you dare to speak your truth, you give others permission to do the same. You become a mirror that reflects their own hidden longings back to them. In your vulnerability, they find their own courage, and what once felt like weakness begins to reveal itself as connection. Two souls recognizing each other through the honesty of shared desire. There is also healing in this act. Carrying unspoken needs creates shame. You begin to believe you are wrong for wanting what you want, wrong for needing what you need. But when you admit the truth, the shame begins to dissolve. You realize there is nothing unnatural about your longing. It is not a flaw, it is evidence of your humanity. To crave attention, to ache for intimacy, to desire recognition, these are not signs of weakness. They are signs that you are alive, that you are willing to feel deeply instead of numbing yourself into silence. So the act of breaking the silence is not surrender, it is victory. It is standing tall in your own truth and saying, yes, I need this. Yes, I desire this, and I will no longer pretend otherwise. That is where the real strength begins, not in denial, but in honesty. When genuine attention finally arrives, it does not slip into your life quietly. It is not just another moment that blends into the noise of everyday existence. It feels like a spark, like a sudden shift in the atmosphere, like something inside of you that had been asleep for years is jolted awake. After so much silence, after so much pretending, after so much hiding, to finally be seen is nothing short of transformative. It is like standing in a desert, thirsty and exhausted, and suddenly feeling rain fall on your skin. The dryness you thought had become permanent begins to soften, and you realize that you were never meant to live starved of this kind of nourishment. The moment someone pays attention to your truth, something changes inside of you. Your guard lowers, even if just slightly. The walls you've built for so long start to crack. The smile you've forced no longer feels necessary, because you no longer need to perform. Instead, you feel something you may not have felt in years: relief. Relief that you don't have to carry everything alone. Relief that someone else has noticed what you thought was invisible. Relief that you don't need to beg or shout or prove yourself in order to be recognized. This kind of attention doesn't need to be dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as someone noticing the tiredness in your voice when you say you're fine. Sometimes it's in the way they pause long enough to hear the truth behind your words. Sometimes it's in the way they look at you with eyes that don't just see your body, but sense your soul. These small gestures carry more power than any spotlight ever could. Because they tell you, without needing to explain, I see you, I hear you, you matter. And when that recognition comes, it does not just change how you feel in the moment. It begins to reshape how you see yourself. All the years of believing you were invisible start to lose their grip. All the doubts about whether your presence carried weight begin to dissolve. Suddenly you feel more alive, more grounded, more real. You realize that you are not asking for too much. You are not needy. You are human, and being human means you are wired for connection. The beauty of this experience is that it reignites hope. When you have gone so long without attention, it is easy to believe that no one will ever see you. You convince yourself that invisibility is your destiny. But the moment sacred attention touches you, it proves that belief wrong. It shows you that connection is still possible, that recognition is not just a dream, that your hunger is not futile. And once you feel it, once you taste the nourishment of being truly seen, you cannot go back to denying it. The famine ends, and with it, the illusion that you can live without what your soul has always needed. Every human being carries the same quiet longing, no matter how different their lives may look on the surface. Some hide it behind confidence, others behind laughter, and others still behind relentless ambition. But beneath all the layers, the desire is the same: to be known, to be understood, to be recognized as more than a face in the crowd. It is not weakness, and it is not a flaw. It is a universal truth that runs through every heart. From the moment we are born, we seek it. A child reaches for their parents' gaze not for survival alone, but for reassurance that they exist, that they are loved. That need does not disappear as we grow older, it only takes new shapes. Society often teaches us to deny this truth. People are told to stand on their own, to need nothing, to prove they can survive without leaning on anyone. Independence is celebrated, while longing is quietly shamed. But no matter how many masks are worn, no matter how much pretending takes place, the truth refuses to die. It shows up in the quiet moments, in the emptiness that comes after the applause, in the silence that follows when the world stops paying attention. It shows up in the way people chase achievements, relationships, or recognition, not because they are shallow, but because they are searching for the same thing everyone is searching for: evidence that they matter. The universality of this desire explains why people are drawn to stories, music, and art that reveal vulnerability. When someone else admits their longing to be seen, it resonates deeply. It feels like a mirror reflecting back the part of ourselves we often keep hidden. That resonance is proof that this hunger is not isolated to a few. It belongs to all of us: the tough, the soft, the silent, the outspoken. Every one of us has at some point ached for the kind of attention that acknowledges our soul. This longing is not just about connection with others, it is also about connection with self. When you are seen by someone in a way that feels real, it awakens recognition within you. You begin to see yourself differently. You begin to believe in your own worth more fully. That is why this hunger is so powerful. It is not vanity, it is not fragility. It is the pathway to belonging, both with others and within your own heart. To crave this recognition is to participate in what makes us human. No amount of denial will erase it. No layer of strength will eliminate it. Even those who appear most self-sufficient carry it in silence. The desire to be seen is stitched into the very fabric of life itself. It is as natural as breath, as essential as water, as unshakable as the beating of a heart. And when we admit this truth, not just individually, but collectively, we begin to understand that what connects us is far greater than what divides us. We are all carrying the same hunger, all searching for the same kind of attention, all longing for the same quiet affirmation that we matter. Once you have experienced genuine attention, it leaves an imprint that cannot be erased. It is like touching something sacred, something so rare and so powerful that your entire understanding of connection changes. Before it, you may have convinced yourself that you could live without it. You may have told yourself the hunger was just an illusion, something you could ignore, something you could outgrow. But once you feel it, once you are truly seen, you realize that pretending no longer works. You cannot return to the mask, to the silence, to the performance. Because now you know what it feels like to be recognized for who you are, and nothing less will ever satisfy you again. This new awareness reshapes the way you move through the world. Where once you may have settled for shallow gestures, now you crave depth. Where once you accepted distraction in place of understanding, now you recognize the difference. You no longer confuse attention with recognition, or noise with connection. You have tasted the real thing, and the counterfeit versions no longer hold power over you. That shift is not arrogance, it is clarity. It is the certainty that your soul requires more than surface-level interactions, and that you are no longer willing to starve just to keep up appearances. It also gives you a new kind of strength. Before, you may have feared your own desires, hiding them in order to appear strong or self-sufficient. But after being seen, you recognize that those desires are not shameful. They are proof of your humanity. You begin to carry yourself differently, with a quiet confidence that comes from knowing your need is valid. And in honoring that need, you give yourself permission to demand more from life. You stop apologizing for your hunger, and instead, you treat it as the compass guiding you toward what is real. This declaration is not always loud. Sometimes it is subtle, a quiet refusal to settle for less. Sometimes it is the decision to walk away from places, people, or situations that leave you invisible. Other times, it is the choice to lean into the rare connections that nourish you, even if they feel uncomfortable at first. Either way, once you have felt the power of sacred attention, you cannot lie to yourself anymore. You cannot pretend that survival without recognition is enough. You cannot convince yourself that emptiness is normal. You know better now, and that knowledge changes everything. In this sense, the experience of being truly seen becomes both a gift and a responsibility. A gift, because it awakens your soul in ways nothing else can. A responsibility, because it demands you never betray yourself by returning to invisibility. It calls you to live differently, to expect more, to honor the truth of what you have felt. And though it may complicate your life, though it may strip away the illusions that once kept you comfortable, it ultimately liberates you. Because now you stand in the light of a truth you can no longer deny. Once you have been recognized, you can never go back to hiding. And so, when I say, I've needed this kind of attention for a long time, I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm speaking for every soul that has ever carried the weight of invisibility, every heart that has ever longed to be recognized without having to beg for it. The truth is, what we crave is not applause, not noise, not fleeting glances. It is the kind of attention that makes us feel alive, the kind that whispers, you are here, you are seen, you matter. If you remember nothing else, remember this: needing to be seen does not make you weak. Admitting that desire does not make you fragile. It makes you human. And there is nothing more powerful, nothing more beautiful, than owning that truth. So let us stop pretending. Let us stop hiding behind masks. Let us stop starving our souls of what they were always meant to have. Because once you have been seen, once you have been touched by genuine recognition, you realize, it is not a luxury. It is life itself. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving me not just your time, but your presence. For in this moment, you have given me the very thing I've spoken of, attention that carries meaning. And I carry that with me, deeply, gratefully. Goodbye for now, and thank you. Truly.